Texas lawmakers have long sounded the alarm about fixing what's been called a broken bail system in the state. Governor Greg Abbott designated the issue an emergency in his State of the State address last week.
A broken bail system that recklessly allows dangerous criminals back out onto our streets.
The governor is again pushing a measure that would create a bail system based on the severity of the crime. It passed the Texas House in 2019 but failed in the Senate. But not everyone agrees with that approach. Criminal justice reform advocates argue the governor's proposal doesn't directly address the problem of poor people who aren't violent being held for weeks before their trial date. Our Rena Diamante joins us with more on the debate. Rena, what are people saying about this push for changes to the bail system?
Well, Karina, you'll hear some activists say if there are some people who have paid their debt to society, why should that be counted against them? And there are still many people awaiting trial in jail during a public health crisis because they cannot afford their bond. Robert Paladna is a 69-year-old Vietnam War veteran battling pancreatic cancer. But as he tells me from his mobile home in Smith County, there was nothing quite like the 6 days this January he spent in jail.
I had a nervous breakdown in there. I couldn't take it. I prayed every day. I couldn't get a hold of my wife. I didn't know if they knew where I was.
Paladna, who is undergoing chemotherapy, says he only remembers waking up in jail. According to a probable cause affidavit, Paladna is accused of shoplifting and giving false identity to Tyler police. His bond was set at $500. Were you able to afford the $500 bond?
No, not really. I get a panhandle for extra food out here. We got a nice mobile home and everything, but we are on limited income.
Paladna is out and reunited with his wife because of the help of a community advocate with Texas Jail Project.
If I'm able to secure my freedom, then I'm free to go, right? But it's really mind-boggling and heartbreaking because these are a lot of individuals or folks have contacted me because they simply don't have the means and resources to afford their bonds.
Bail reform will be a hot-button issue this legislative session. Lawmakers are considering how Harris County is allowing no-cash pretrial release of misdemeanor defendants, following a federal lawsuit over the county's bail system. An independent monitor is reviewing those changes, and according to an early report,
the misdemeanors are the large bulk of the criminal justice system. We have not seen an increase in reoffending. So that's a huge, I think, positive sign that it's working.
I think we all want to improve the system. I just think we have disagreements over how to get there.
According to Ken Good, a board member for the Professional Bondsmen of Texas, he believes there should be a whole host of factors that should be taken into consideration before setting bail.
Nobody's looking at their criminal history. Nobody's looking to see if they have a substantial history of failing to appear, or if they failed to appear for court, or if they've continued to have a long history of criminal history.
Paladna, too, wishes police would have looked into his history before detaining him.
It seems ridiculous to me. But I don't know what the policeman was thinking when they handcuffed me and took me in.
And we want to bring in Senator Paul Bettencourt now. He's a Houston Republican who's pushing legislation to limit the use of PR bonds and impose stiffer cash bail limits on defendants charged with multiple felonies. Senator Bettencourt, welcome back to the program. Good to see you. Why do you think this is the way to go? How would it prevent people from bonding out and committing crimes again?
Well, the simple part of Senate Bill 532 is that if you have one personal reconnaissance bond open, you can't open another one. Because see, what we've been seeing down in Harris County and other parts of the state is that they basically, a PR bond goes out and then another PR bond goes out, then another PR bond goes out, and then there's multiple stacked felony charges on top of it. And the bottom line is that a PR bond, a personal reconnaissance bond, is a gift from the state that says all you have to do is show back up and you won't be charged. But even then, we're having a terrible problem with people skipping out on just the PR bond. So the bottom line is give them one chance and that's it.
I will say, I mean, you're getting support from some law enforcement, but at least one of your Senate colleagues says this bill fails to address his quote, real problems preventing judges from detaining violent criminals. What's your response to that?
Well, I disagree because, look, America's the land of second chances, but you shouldn't have a third or fourth or fifth chance to commit a heinous crime and then shoot a police officer, like which happened in Houston last week on both HPD and the sheriff's office, or kill a civilian that's a citizen of your county. The real problem that Crime Stoppers identified is that we've got 92 deaths that are attributable to either double-stacked personal reconnaissance bonds or, in some cases, 3, 4, 5, 6 felony bonds all stacked onto each other. So I believe just by limiting down to one PR bond per defendant open at any time, that would have at least saved 92 lives in Harris County alone.
What do you think? I mean, do you think there are safeguards that could be added to PR bonds to make sure someone isn't being locked up forever?
Well, I mean, that's the balance here, because the state constitution says that you have to have access to a bond.
Right.
And so we worked with legislative counsel to try to come up with language that would keep the ability to get a bond for the people that needed it, but also try to put on just some rational limits, like, after your third felony charge, you have to have a $10,000 bond, which really only means $1,000 out of pocket if it's revoked, and 80% of those aren't even being revoked in Harris County. I think the governor took a good step with his idea for Trooper Allen as well. I think these are complementary because basically we're trying different solutions to get at the problem that while bail reform was necessary, we've gone too far on bond release, and the public is in danger. And certainly, as we've seen in Harris County, we've had 2 officers shot with people out on PR bonds just last week.
How closely does this mirror what Governor Abbott is calling for? I mean, could you do one without the other and vice versa?
Well, yeah, because actually there are 2 different solutions that could be on the same coin, just, one on one face and the other one on the other. And look, we're going to have other ideas. Senator Huffman has talked about a major omnibus bill, and I don't care what bill passes, because at the end of the day, we just have to stop this revolving door and letting people out on personal reconnaissance bonds like popcorn. That was never what that was designed to do. That was designed to help somebody that was indigent, that couldn't make a bond, get out because the court determines that they're not a risk. But what we're seeing with 92 deaths in Harris County is that the system's being abused, and we have to have bond reform to follow bail reform.
Well, lastly, I want to ask you, I mean, the bail system in Texas has long been criticized for the people who can afford it, get released, and then others stay in there, not able to return to work or care for their families after a run-in with the law. How can you guarantee this would not be something that increases wealth-based incarceration? Well,
that's why we've set a very low minimum for the third felony, post-third felony, of only $10,000. When you look at capital murder bonds, those are $50,000, $60,000, $70,000, $80,000. But more importantly, we're trying to put legislation that stops, quite frankly, magistrates that have a view that everybody should be released regardless of the charges against them. Well, that's not what the system's about. I predict there'll be some solution that the legislature will agree on, because we just can't have people, popping out on no-cost bonds and ending up shooting police officers and killing civilians in their home county.
Senator Paul Betancourt, an issue that's been looked at for years. We'll continue to follow where it's going this year and get you back on. Thank you so much for your time.
Thanks.